not the least of which I think we've got to go to the dossier issue, in large part because when you look at the dossier, what do we see? He's saying to George Stephanopoulos, it's still unverified. And yet Andrew McCabe is on record saying, oh, without the dossier, no warrant. And we also know that the dossier made up the bulk of the application, according to the Grassley-Graham memo. So he's saying they never corroborated it, and they brought that before a FISA court judge in an application. What does that say to you?
This tortured and troubled man who you saw last night on television, America's dirty cop, has destroyed the integrity, the reputation, and the legitimacy of the Federal Bureau of Investigation single-handedly by his outrageous performance last night on ABC. It is inconceivable to me that anyone can now think that he performed a legitimate law enforcement function during the investigation of Hillary Clinton. And it is quite obvious that the dossier was a fake document, that it was absolutely purposely used illegally by senior officials of the FBI and the Department of Justice. Mr. Comey lied repeatedly last night, and regrettably, he lied to the FISA court. He encouraged others to lie to the FISA court. And regrettably, I think Mr. Comey has to be charged with crimes for falsely presenting information to a FISA court and for apparently lying regularly to Congress.
Alan Dershowitz, Professor, I know you don't like criminalization of political differences. No. By the way, I share that. And it's gotten as worse as it's ever been. But if you're going to go to a FISA court to spy on an opposition party campaign in an election year, and you're going to use unverified, uncorroborated documents that were bought and paid for by one campaign against the other, and a foreign national using Russian sources of all things to get it, is that a crime in Alan Dershowitz's book?
Well, first of all, Sean, I do want to say that I really think that you should have disclosed your relationship with Cohen when you talked about him on this show. You could have said just that you had asked him for advice or whatever, but I think it would have been much, much better had you disclosed that relationship. You were in a difficult situation,
If you understand the nature of it, Professor, I'm going to deal with this later in the show.
No, I understand.
It was minimal. I put out a statement about it.
You should have said that, and that would have been fair to say that it was minimal.
That's fine.
You were in a tough position because A, you had to talk about Cohen, and B, you didn't want the fact that you had spoken to him to be revealed. And you had the right, by the way, not to have your identity revealed.
I have the right to privacy.
Right.
I do.
You know, it's a complex situation when you're speaking to millions of people.
Professor, it was such a minor relationship in terms of, and it had to do with real estate and nothing political.
I understand that. I understand that. As far as